I'm strategically making sure that I'm doing this live stream while Australia is sleeping. So Simon Swiss is not embarrassed. Or I'm not embarrassing him with how bad my streams are compared to his. All right. So we have this nice old website that we're resurrecting from the dead. I had an old copy of it laying around, and the person whose website it got deleted from DigitalOcean, so it was gone. And what we're going to do is we're going to modernize the CSS that's on here. We've been modernizing the whole site, so we Dockerized it, we converted it over to a modern Twig templating setup. We got the JavaScript running via Webpack 5. We got all that kind of lovely stuff going. And so let's bring up the Docker container so we can get the project up and running. There we go. And take a look at this. Our developer tool showing. It's complaining because the Webpack dev server isn't running, but that's fine. We're starting it up now. So this is what our project looks like. And this CSS directory is kind of a bunch of legacy CSS. And also there's some CSS, so these are pre-built styles that were already here. This is the minified version of it, I'm assuming. And then we've got Slick and Slick theme. And so there's no real build system for this. And I actually think that this was in tachyons. I think this was originally done in tachyons. So what I want to show is how we can take an existing site, add Tailwind to it in a way that we don't have to redo all of the CSS on the site in Tailwind, but we can incrementally add Tailwind to the project without adding any size. And we can just start adding Tailwind styles to, as we see fit to get it going. So the first thing I want to do is let's make sure that we're up and running. And we should be, because we've got the notice from PHP. Yep. So our Docker container's up and running. We're good to go. And we got our lovely website here. All right, cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the way the CSS is loaded in here currently. So currently, this is all it's doing, right? So it's hard coding that we need to load in Slick, CSS, a Slick theme, and then a Slick Lightbox dist theme. Again, all this site was all done by someone else, so I'm just uncovering this to see exactly what was done. Okay, so we need Slick theme. I'm assuming all these things are needed, and then Slick Lighthouse dist.css. Okay. So as a general approach, what I want to do here is, first of all, I want to take these imports that were, presumably these were copied from, probably the package was downloaded and they were just manually copied into the CSS directory. So what I want to do is I want to import these directly from the actual NPM package so that they'll be part of the actual build system. So we can just import them there. And I'll probably put those in vendor. That's going to make the most sense. Yeah. So let's just take a look at what we got here real quick. I just want to confirm that everything is where I'm expecting it's going to be. Oh yeah, this should not be there. That was a mistake. All right, so for instance, let's check out Slick. Oops. Yeah, and I'm assuming, let's take a look at the package. Yeah, okay. So we'll just import slick, slick, and then this stuff. And that should do it for that. I'm probably just going to include... We don't need to rebuild the less or the SCSS. Like, there's no point in that. Yep, so that'll be that. And then we'll do a similar thing for the light box. It's going to be in dist, though. Yeah, okay. Yep. So as a general approach, that's what we're going to do, is we're going to take these things that are coming from NPM packages, and we're going to import those in our post-CSS build process. And let's do that first, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next, because it's not going to take much to do this stuff, right? So let's go to our CSS. And we've got this split up into 3 separate things. This is the CSS splitting for Tailwind, just to make the building of it a little bit quicker. Yep, so these are all the components that go in here, and then the utilities finally are last. And then finally, we add the vendors absolute last. And I think this is going to be the right approach to do it. The reason I'm doing it this way is if it's vendor stuff, probably we don't want it to be overridden by anything. But potentially I could be convinced that this should be moved above the utilities so that we could override it from there. But so here's our stuff here. So let's just start doing it. So let's do @port. And we want to do slick carousel, and it was slick dot JS. That's all it was, right? And what's it? Can't resolve slick carousel. Interesting. Well, we'll see about that. Because it certainly should be able to resolve that. All right. Yeah, the only way that could be is if the base is wrong. But let's just see what ends up happening. So let's check out our build chain config now. So originally we commented out the Tailwind stuff because it was overwriting our styles and we couldn't see our fonts that were in there. But let's just uncomment this stuff. Right. So now, as part of this build process, it's going to build all the things. And it's also going to complain if there's something wrong. So we're using NodeMon so that anytime we make changes to our actual Webpack config, it will recompile and rebuild this stuff. Okay. So it is claiming. Oh. Yeah, that's not going to work real well. That's really funny. So we probably want CSS, not JS, right? I'm assuming that that's the right path for it. Yeah, all right, let's take a look. Slick carousel. Slick. Yeah, slick.css and then slick-theme.css. I wonder why it's continuing to try to do that. I'll tell you what. Let's do this. So we're just going to trick it into restarting the Webpack process. Okay. So now things are working again. However, our CSS, like it's just all messed up, right? Because we're including stuff from all over the place. It's not too badly messed up, but it's our fonts are wrong, for instance, and it's because we're overwriting stuff in our Tailwind setup. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that real quick. So we got two of our vendor things here, and let's just see. There was one other vendor one that we're using. That's right, the Slick Lightbox. So let's just do that real quick. Let's go back. And I think these are TypeScript errors, so I'm going to have to look into the paths that are in there. And because I really like my autocomplete, I don't like the fact that it is broken on this. So I'm going to look it up manually to make sure we're right. Okay, yep. All right, so those are the three vendor CSS that we have in here. So now we should be able to remove these. And we no longer are using them. Uh-oh. Not promising. Okay, no, the CSS must still be there, because otherwise this wouldn't work properly. I think these are just conflicts between, yeah. So I think this is just the fact that we're using Tailwind and tachyons built in together. So let's tackle that next. Let's take a look at that. So the one thing we have remaining is that we're using this style sheet, and this is a pre-built tachyons style sheet. I don't think there's any build system in place for this website. If there was, who knows? So what I'm going to do is we're going to do this. So here is our web. All right. So here's our CSS. So here are the styles. So yeah. So I'm assuming that this is going to be the full styles stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of this, and we're going to put it into CSS. Put it into here temporarily. We'll make a new directory. We'll call it legacy. And we'll just put it in here. So this is going to be our legacy styles, is what we're going to do. And in order to integrate this with Tailwind, what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to remove this. Right, so now we're going to have no styles at all. So our web page is probably going to look, really bad. It's amazing what happens when there's no style sheet, right? All right, so now let's check out our component settings. So this is where we have the Tailwind components, and we're going to add in our legacy styles here. That's interesting. Oh, right. Because these are both utility frameworks, I think what we might have to do, let's see what happens if we add this in last. And the other thing we might consider doing is, ooh, that's not working well at all. All right, so let's see what part of this process is causing issues. First of all, yeah, no, it doesn't seem to have a problem with any of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this, and we're just going to comment out the Tailwind stuff and just take a look and to see at what point the CSS is conflicting. Like the other thing we could consider doing is Tailwind does allow you to prefix its stuff. Sent me a message saying, "Is my family a raccoon?" I don't know. I don't know how to answer this question. All right. Okay, so it's still not compiling it right. So that's interesting. So this is making me wonder if these styles that are here are actually what they should be. So we're going to examine these next to make sure. It was actually including on the front end the minified version of it, which in theory should be the same, but I mean, you never know. Let's take a look. The actual CSS it was including was this. And there's no real reason why we can't include the minified one. It would just be kind of nicer if it wasn't minified. All right, but let's put this in where it should be. All right. All right. That's really interesting. So why would that be? So let's say we do this. Yeah, something is getting... Something is not right. All right, so let's figure out what's going wrong here. Oh, wait a minute now. Now it looks right. I don't think it is right, though. Yeah, it's not right. Let's take a look at what's going on. Grid sizer. Good grief. I think we should be using actual grid here, is what I'm thinking. See, now why is it laying it out properly now, though? Is this the masonry messing up? Shouldn't be. Huh. Okay. So actually it does appear to be working. Huh. Okay. Never mind. Yeah, so we've removed it. Why was it doing... Why is it doing this? This is what I want to know. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's what it is. It actually was working the whole time. The issue is the masonry stuff. Okay. Because I think what's happening is the masonry is doing its layout, and then our styles are being injected via HMR. Okay. That makes sense. So let's just go back to that, and let's comment these back out. We want these back in here. We want all the things back in here. And now let's see what breaks. All right, so now it actually does break. Okay. Awesome. And let's take a look at... well, hold on. Hold on. Let's just see if it is the minified version of it that's causing our issues. Okay, it is. So okay, so that's really interesting to know. So the actual CSS, the .css is different from the .min.css. One is right, the other is not. Okay, good to know. So in our legacy, we can get rid of these. If I were really curious, I would go in and try and figure out why, but you know, whatever. Okay. So here we have, ideally, I think the way that I would like to do this is I would like the legacy stuff to go here, which means that it's still included in the document. As you can see, like the layout and all this kind of stuff works after I resize it. And that won't be an issue on the production. That's just a quirk of the way that this is working, the way it's loading the CSS in. So basically what we've done is in our post-CSS build process, we're including our legacy styles. So we're adding them in. And we're adding them into this app components PCSS, post-CSS bundle, right? And utilities, like if we look at the actual structure of this, these are imported. All three of these things are imported, and we can find that in right here. So these are the three CSS files that are imported, and utilities is imported last. This is the biggest one. Currently, the way Tailwind works, I think Adam has something up his sleeve for this, but currently the way Tailwind works, this is going to be really huge, right? Because it's going to make all of the utility classes that you might ever possibly need. And that's why we have it in its own separate chunk, so that it will only reload when this stuff actually changes. And we can spare ourselves the time because this almost never changes. And it's pretty huge, right? And so by doing it this way, what we have is we've got all of our, this is our base Tailwind styles, which is basically a CSS reset. And then whatever components we have to make our actual stuff, including our Tailwind components, and then whatever specific stuff for this site that we have, right? And then finally we have the utilities, where we add the utilities, and then we add the vendor post CSS. And then inside of components, the last thing that we put in here is our legacy styles. This is our pre-built style sheet that is coming over from the last website. So this has all the styles, right? So what we've done here is basically we're building a post CSS, via post CSS, we're building our style sheets, combining in the legacy styles, and then adding in the Tailwind utilities last. And then Tailwind will automatically run all this stuff through Purge. So it's only going to keep the styles that we're actually using on the page, whether they be from our legacy stuff or from Tailwind. So in this way, we have a site that you can see it works, like the styling is right, everything is the way that it should be. But now I can go in here and I can start adding Tailwind classes to the stuff that's in here. So the first thing I'm going to do, actually, you see this ugly yellow background? I put that in there as a base so that I will always know when I have done nothing to it. So we're going to get rid of that. Need that. All right, no more? No more? Good, okay. Yep. Yeah, so this is actually interesting. I'm curious to see what happens. So this is our 109 kilobyte style sheet. I can guarantee you that it's not using all of those classes, all of those tachyon classes, because this is a relatively simple website, as you can see. Yeah. It's looking for Ajax loader there. Okay. Well, we can fix the path on that if we want to. Yeah, we would need to look in their style sheet to see. Actually, that'll be an easy way to do it. Let's just take a look. He already has the legacy styles here. Oh, and that's the other thing, is when I refactor these things away, what I like to do is, at least temporarily, what is that? It keeps on recreating that. Must be a wrong path in there. What I like to do is have a deprecated directory, and This is where I'm refactoring stuff, and I think I'm done with it, but I'd rather not have to do a git revert or go back to a specific commit to reclaim it. So temporarily I'll put it in deprecated. But what I want to do now is I want to look at where the Ajax is coming from in there. Because we'll just override that particular class that's in there. So let's take a look at that. Yeah. Oh, it's minimized. That's annoying. All right. All right. So here is our rule for Ajax. I think this is the only one. Yep. Okay. Okay. Actually, maybe I want to be able to override this via my components too. Yeah, I think I do. So actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the legacy CSS right after the Tailwind components. And then I want to be able to, in my probably global PCSS, probably the file that we were just in, I want to be able to do something like this. Where I can do this image Ajax loader, blah, blah, blah. Let's make it not totally ugly. All right. Okay, so because this is coming after it, this is going to override it, and we're going to move. And that shouldn't be in dist because it's not. Is it going to build it? No, I think we'll keep that fixed in assets. Yeah. Okay. And this is normal. Masonry has to do itself. Yeah. Okay. It's interesting though. We're not. It's not getting that. But I'm not concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is, oh, what have we done? It didn't like some of the maybe the specificity of the order that we did it in. All right, let's take a look at that. Right. Maybe it does have to go after that. I kind of wanted to be able to potentially override what's in the legacy via that, but it doesn't seem to be very happy about it. Interesting. We broke the internet. Hmm. I mean, all these styles seem to be here. Funky. Doesn't seem to have any problem with building all this stuff. Let's take a look. So I'm thinking, I'm doing this because I want to see what styles are potentially missing. No, really. Huh. I could swear we had this working. So let's take a look. What? That slick list rule was doing that? How does that even make any sense? What did I do? For real? Oh. It's overriding. Okay. I got it. I got it. It's because we're programmatically changing the color of this background here to be the dominant color. So actually everything was here. You just couldn't see it because it was white. All right, so that's fine. So I'm going to switch that back because I would prefer to be able to override all of this stuff. So let's go to App Utilities. And let's put our legacy CSS back into components, be able to override it by our components, put it all back in here, and away we go. Okay. And this is actually really funny because this right here, you see how you can't click on this thing? This is a bug that I remember fixing because this is an old version of the source code. So I guess my little fix wasn't quite in this. It's probably on a different computer. That's fine. But anyway, so mission accomplished. A couple of little stumbles in there, but that's okay. So basically what we have is we took our CSS completely out of our links, so we're not doing a link directly to a style sheet anymore. And we put it back into our Webpack build process. You can see here, so it's including the base, the components, utilities. And then if we go to the base, this is nothing exciting. This is Tailwind's CSS reset. And then if we go to components, Tailwind components, and then here is where we add in our legacy style sheet. We just pull that into the post CSS build mix, and then away we go. And now we're able to add Tailwind classes. We can do whatever we want. We're using our existing CSS that's in here. That means we don't have to rewrite the whole thing immediately, which honestly, rewriting a whole site, removing tachyons and adding Tailwind back in just seems like a pain when all they really want to do is get the site back up again, you know? So that's it. I mean, the next thing that we got to do, we have this project Dockerized. We have it using a modern Twig-based templating setup. And we also have it using a Webpack 5 build system for the JavaScript that's in there. All of the modules are now in NPM in the package.json. It's pulling them down from NPM. And now we've got the CSS baked in there so that we can use Tailwind 2.0. Adam and everyone at Tailwind Labs is probably rolling over in their graves, but this is a site that it has tachyons and Tailwind CSS on it at the same time. And everyone's coexisting peacefully. Everything is working all right. And we can progressively remove the tachyons CSS and add in the Tailwind, and eventually we can just remove it. But the nice thing is, because we're using Tailwind's post-CSS build process, and we'll probably do that in the next video, we'll do a production build. But when we actually do a build, we're going to be able to rip out all of the CSS that we're not using, both the tachyons and our own CSS and Tailwind CSS. So I bet you we're going to end up with a style sheet that is significantly smaller than the 109 kilobyte tachyons legacy CSS that came with it. That's it. We are going to be back and doing that production build sometime soon. See you later.